are Squawking Dead. And the first thing I want to say is we're in week 3 of our giveaways, and we are giving away a print from RM Graphics. It's like these Disney-esque prints of the Walking Dead characters, and it's pretty damn wild. I just love the idea of this concept, and it's pretty cool. So,
they're pretty cool.
Yeah, if you want a copy, if you want to win it, you got to enter SquawkingDead.com. And I think we wanted to just get back into sort of the news that we've kind of missed in the last 2 weeks since we've last broadcasted. So with that, I give it to my co-host.
Where do we start with the news? I'm trying to think. I mean, we know the recent. Do we want to start with recent news, or do we want to go all the way back?
The choice is yours, Carol. You hold the reins.
Well, the big news recently is Dwight.
Yes, it is.
That was the big breaking news. I don't know how I feel about this news, that basically Dwight is going to also cross over to Fear, The Walking Dead, for this upcoming season 5.
Which, just to remind everybody, Ashley called this out on our show in the last episode, and I kind of like questioned it. I was like, how does that make sense? I don't know that makes sense. You know, why would Dwight? And then like you backtrack and you start to think about it, and then obviously the news kind of comes out later. So yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that though. I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Are you enthusiastic about it? Are you indifferent about it? Are you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm giddy. I'm pretty giddy about it. I'll be honest.
What? Why?
I'm just kind of sick. I'm just kind of sick and giddy in the belly about it, because there's something about there's just something about him like a character like him who's almost kind of like a tabula rasa kind of character. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like he can go anywhere and he could be anything at this point, because defeating quote unquote Negan. You can go anywhere from here. So there's a whole bunch of emotions. Okay, and then I wanted to put this in the notes, but it's kind of like, does he have Sherry? You know, we know that he was going to look for him or her. So, is it the search for Sherry, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's like, I can see how they can pivot and take his story into Fear. The thing is that, like, there's the part of me that's like, man, this is a cheap ploy to get me to watch Fear. This is a cheap ploy to basically like suck it into Fear, because I want to know what happened to Dwight and Sherry, and now you're going to put it as part of the Fear family, and now I'm going to have to watch Fear to find out what happened to Dwight and Sherry.
Oh, nuts!
Which is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
I'll watch it just because I want to know.
Right.
I just want to know what happened.
They're just trying to diversify right now. They're trying to get Carol specifically to watch Fear the Walking Dead and like it, maybe. I don't know. They're
trying really hard, yeah. I mean, and I don't know if this is all part of the master plan. Like, I don't know, like, is what happens with Dwight, is that going to inform whatever happened in that time jump with Michonne and Daryl and the scars? Like, is that going to inform? Is that going to be somehow related, connected, inform whatever it is that happened? We get the impression that some group came and caused something. So could it be that it's like Fear, somebody from Fear or something from Fear connects with, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is all part of one big master plan.
Well, I'll say this much. According to some of the news that I actually put in our notes, it's not.
They said that they're not going to combine it. They're not going to like merge it.
Right. The thing that we've been talking about, I think part of it, even Fear the Walking Dead in our episode 24, where we kind of did the we were in mid-season of Fear the Walking Dead, and then into getting sneak peeks about season 9. And what we had not predicted, but kind of hoped would happen, is the series would merge. Now, this is obviously before, I think it was before Andrew Lincoln's exit was teased, but I'm not 100% sure. And also, all these big plans, the time jump, the movies and all that stuff. Like, so now it's kind of like, it seems clear to us, and it's been kind of told, is that there's going to be a diversification of the universe. So, so even though some characters will be crossing over from Fear, now people can see my finger because I can use my hands.
There you go.
But obviously the audio stream can't. There may be crossovers from Fear to The Walking Dead, and maybe vice versa. So we don't really know. So that's kind of maybe out. You know what I mean?
It's a possibility.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
there's another problem, though,
But
with Dwight going over. And it's pretty big. As some of you may or may not know, things happen in the comics to Dwight. And this may kind of affect the trajectory of the TV character in the show. Now, it may all end up working out at the end of the day, but things as they are right now with him going to Fear, they may not rebound back. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about, first of all? Because I mean, like, people know because it was spoiled everywhere, but you know.
I mean, there are things that Dwight's involved. Dwight is very much in the comic, spoiler alert. Dwight is a very dominant figure in the comic, and he ends up, you know, as we've already seen, like he goes against Negan and the Saviors, and he becomes kind of like a what do you call it?
It's like representative of the Saviors in a way.
Kind of. Basically, he becomes sort of like the new de facto leader of the Saviors in the time after the fall of Negan or the defeat of Negan. So Dwight becomes like their representative unwillingly. He does not want that role.
Sounds like Daryl to me.
It's very much sounds like Daryl, yeah. But Daryl and Dwight, they're so like, you know, they're so, and in a way, speaking of that, it does kind of make sense when you think about it that way, moving a guy like Dwight to Fear in a way, because the thing is that Dwight and Daryl are such similar characters in certain respects.
Yep.
That anytime there's any character on the show that comes close to being competitive for like ranking with Daryl, it's not going to happen. It's like the Highlander. There can only be one. So basically, like the other, Daryl's always going to be around. Daryl ain't going anywhere.
No, this guy's a cash cow.
This guy is a cash cow. He's not going anywhere. So basically, Dwight, it's like, I'm not totally surprised to be like, Dwight, we're going to move you over to Fear because Daryl is getting.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but I think that you can still, if I think about the trajectory in the comic, there's elements that you can take from the story potentially, because spoiler alert, in the comic, Sherry also plays a very significant role. She becomes sort of like, and it's not even really clear in the comic. Here's the thing. The comic is good source material, but it's not necessarily clear like how some of these things happen necessarily. How do we get to this point? Sherry at some point becomes the leader of the New Saviors, and very much like a power hungry leader of the New Saviors.
Well, she took a lot of shit, apparently.
But the thing is, it would be interesting to see if Dwight goes to Fear in this search for Sherry, let's say, or let's say they find each other and they decide to leave and go away someplace. It would be interesting to see if maybe we see the development of Sherry and how she becomes that leader for the Saviors or whatever, because you keep getting the impression that something happened in that time jump and that a group was trusted or somebody was trusted and they basically did something or whatever. It would be interesting to see if Sherry came back and like, they were like, oh no, it's Sherry. She was one of Negan's wives or whatever. And she kind of flips the script and like, you know, surprises everyone or whatever. Like, who knows?
Tell them what's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could take elements from the story, even moving Dwight to Fear to kind of better inform how that relates to what happens years down the line in Alexandria. So they could work with it. It's not going to be exactly how it is in the comic, but there's no way that they're going to be able to get things exactly how it is in the comic. There's no way.
I don't think it's possible anymore now.
No, it's not possible. Although there was an article from Metro that was talking about like, oh, could this be the end of Negan? And I wrote in the notes, like, I don't know if you saw it. I put CG : bullshit.
Right.
Going anywhere. Like,
by the way, that's why I put that in there, because it's just things that get talked about by people who may not know what they're talking about.
Well, the thing is that like, if you have some basis for it, I get it, but they're like really, like I read the article and I was like, their basis was like, well, now anything could happen. I'm like, but the show's always been like that. Anything can always happen. Like anybody, I mean, technically, yes, Negan could be killed off at any point. Sure. But is it going to happen?
Wait, what do you mean?
No. I'm like, but is it going to happen? He's another cash cow. He ain't going anywhere. And he plays too important of a role with the Whispers.
But the one thing that I wanted to highlight was in the effort of bringing up the whole possibility of Dwight doing something else, is that it's possible, and this may be true. I don't know how they're going to do it to a point where everybody's going to find it acceptable. But there's two possibilities that emerged from one of those articles, and that's Daryl takes over as the role of Dwight. And if that's the case, Daryl is in some way on the chopping block as a result. And nobody wants to hear this.
I don't think he's going to be on the chopping block because Dwight is still alive in the comic. Dwight is still alive. So even if he takes a portion,
even though he took a shot to the head?
No, Dwight didn't.
Dwight.
Not Dwight.
I thought Dwight took a shot in the head in the comics. Explain that.
Abraham did. Dwight didn't, though.
Oh, I'm talking about in the far future.
In the far future Commonwealth time?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I would have to see the most recent, but I thought it was pretty caught up, unless it was like really recent.
Yeah, it's really recent.
Oh, it was like a recent issue?
Did I just spoil it for you?
No, it's fine because like...
The problem is it was everywhere on the internet, unfortunately.
I don't think that Daryl is going to like go anywhere, because I think that the thing with Daryl is that Daryl is basically going to play, as far as I'm concerned, a combination of several different pieces. He's going to be like Carl. He's going to take the Carl portion of the romance with Alpha's daughter, Lydia, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, something that we mentioned.
Yeah, there's going to be that aspect there, which I'm very happy for him because now he's no longer asexual anymore. Like everybody's like, Daryl's asexual.
I still have my theories, but it's okay. We'll just see what happens at this point.
I think it's happening.
By the way, I merely mentioned the fact that Daryl might be gay, and like people just stop chatting. It's just the weirdest thing. People take it really seriously.
I don't think he is. I don't think so. I think he is just. I think it's going to be him and Lydia.
It's appearing that way. Yeah, but
it's appearing that way. And I think that, so he'll play, I think that he'll take some of Dwight's role. I think he'll take some of Carl's role. I think he's going to like have certain elements, but Daryl's never dying. Daryl is the last man standing.
Yeah. Well, Daryl's kind of like the new Rick, it seems like. You know, he seems to be taking charge when it comes to meeting up with Alpha and meeting up with Liddy in the cell and all that stuff, as far as we can see right now.
Yep.
And I think people on the show have kind of sort of said as much too about
and fighting Beta.
Yeah. Yes. Possibly. We haven't seen that, but we don't know.
Yeah, the video clip.
Fighting Beta. Yeah, I thought you said Alpha for some reason.
No, fighting Beta. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who looks amazing.
That's wild. Yeah.
He looks just like his counterpart. Like if you've seen the comic, he looks just like him. They did an awesome job.
Frightening.
Very good. Very like just the stature and everything, like just spot on.
And the reveal. Just like lurking behind translucent sheets of plastic.
It's awesome.
Barely in focus.
I will say that I think they're going to have to definitely play around with some stuff. I mean, which they obviously will. Because the one thing that the comic doesn't do a very good job of is, I think, character deaths in general in the comic. Mm-hmm. I think that there's only been like maybe a couple of character deaths that have been significant in the comic. And because it's been done so well in the comic, they've done it on the show. Like Glenn. The way Glenn died on the show is the way Glenn died in the comic. Like almost shot for shot. That's how it was. What was another one? Remember Spencer, the guy who Negan basically like gutted?
Yeah, Austin Nichols. Whatever. Yeah,
that was shot for shot how it was in the comic, like panel for panel, almost word for word, exactly the way it was. So they've done like certain ones that were significant, but they do try on the show sometimes to kind of like revisit deaths that maybe weren't done as well to try and kind of like, or to just give the character more their due. Shane dies very soon in the comic. They kind of like on the show, they dragged it out through season 1 and, obviously season 2. But if you were to go by the comic standard, he would have been killed off a little, probably within season 1. But, they dragged it out a little bit longer. Abraham's death was different. Abraham's death, obviously, on the show, he got killed by Negan in the lineup. In the comic, he gets Denise's death with the arrow. And it's such an abrupt... I mean, Denise's death was very abrupt. I mean, I would say that was a significant death, and the fact that it was so abrupt, how it happened. Like, you're watching it, and she's talking, and it's like, and then it just happens so quickly that you're so taken back, like, oh my God, like you weren't expecting it. But for a character like Abraham, and they even said, it's like, a character like Abraham didn't deserve the more I don't know, I don't want to say majestic death, but a more impactful death, I guess, than just something so random like an arrow, and that's it.
Right,
So they do
I mean,
try to
he needs
change
one last suck my nuts.
He just needs to go out fighting instead of going out like so abruptly. And
Right.
and they did a good job of that. Alpha in the comic, she has a significant death, but I feel like it happens fairly quickly. I don't know if they're going to make it happen so quickly. Beta too. Beta's death is actually very uneventful for a character like him. So I feel like that's going to change too. I don't think that they're going to kill him off the way he's killed off in the comic, because it seems almost kind of like, really? That's how you're going to do it? All right. Father Gabriel has a very majestic death in the comic. I think that they will do it on the show.
Yeah, I mean, because that's also in question too, because of the way they're handling Eugene and Gabriel and Rosita, and so it's kind of unclear whether they're going to stick to the comic books on this one, only because of so many I remember Rosita's supposed to be pregnant in the comics, and things happen that are really tragic. So we don't really know.
Let's just say it, heads on pikes.
That too, yeah.
That's, and I think that that's like the big thing that everybody knows is going to happen.
Yeah,
in my opinion, that's going to be the season finale.
I think so too. I don't think we're going to wrap this up all in one half season.
No,
that doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
especially with the gravity that these people are. These people weigh down on our main group too. So.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be wrapped up like that. What I wonder is how many of our people are going to be sacrificed? Is it going to be 8, 10, 12, at least 8?
Right. Because in the comic book, it's quite the number.
It's 10.
Right. I mean, that's a lot in one go.
I mean, we have a full cast of people.
Come on, let's just throw them all on there.
I mean,
except for Daryl, because
Daryl ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Daryl and Negan.
So we know he's safe, sort of.
Daryl's safe. Michonne's safe. When Michonne's I don't want to go to the fair, I'm good. Don't go to the fair.
No, you're good.
Don't go to the fair.
You're good.
So Michonne
and Melissa McBride, 3-year contract.
She's fine.
That kind of segues us pretty nicely to that, because one of the news
Daryl too, right? He signed a 3-year contract.
Right. Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride basically signed 3-year contracts with options to appear in companion series or movies. So it's a pretty open-ended contract with a salary hike for both of them. Obviously, Norman Reedus is getting paid more. I mean, if Social Capital has any indication, I mean, everybody likes Carol, but he's a star. More than everybody likes Norman Reedus.
He's so cool. Whether you are gaga over him or not, he's just you can't not like him, because he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's nice. He's a cool character. Cool person, cool character, nice guy. What's not to like?
It's just such a weird thing. I mean,
what, the Daryl obsession where people are if you kill Daryl, we riot.
Well, less of that than the fact that, and I brought this up about certain songs that you don't expect to be hits, but suddenly they're hits, and that's Daryl. They weren't supposed to be there, and then
Daryl was not supposed to be this fan favorite that people lose their minds over. No, I know.
Yeah. It's proof positive that that the thing that you say about adaptations, and that's how when you start to change things is when things kind of when you start to tweak things that are originally in the comics to kind of adapt them for television. Daryl is the quintessential embodiment of what you can do when you start adapting things.
Yep.
So
I agree. And it's worked for them. It's worked for him. It's worked for the show. It's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Daryl's not going anywhere.
I don't know. What else we got on there?
In terms of crossover characters, so it's not being ruled out Morgan and Rick perhaps reuniting at some point.
Right.
I could see that, though. I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, people...
Although...
Okay.
No, I mean, you can, but I also don't know... I mean, Lenny James is an amazing actor. Thing is, I'm just trying to think about it because I'm trying to imagine where Morgan could fit in. But I guess I could see Morgan at a place like the Commonwealth. I could see him, because in my mind, because that's where Rick is, in my mind. In my mind, he and Maggie are there. And yeah, so I don't know. I guess I could see that kind of reunion happen. I like the idea that they always seem to find each other. I like that. I think that that's very poetic.
Yeah, especially the way I think I think it was either Andy or Lenny who said they always seem to be attuned to the same frequency.
Yeah,
bringing back the walkie reference.
Walkie-talkie, yeah.
Yeah.
I could could see that. And I think it's nice. I think that if they do that, that'd be kind of cool, especially considering that Morgan is, you could kind of make him pivot anyway at this point, because he's not, well, first of all, he's far exceeded his lifespan in the comic. In the comic, he dies when the Horde takes over Alexandria. The episode where Carl gets shot, I think it's called No Way Out. Mm-hmm. In the comic equivalent.
Oh, shot in the eye, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shot in the eye. Morgan dies during that whole kind of herd invasion or whatever. Right. So he doesn't make it out past that point. So he's far outlived, his comic equivalent.
Same thing with Melissa McBride, the Carol, right?
Yeah, beyond. She died
way
back
beyond.
In prison.
Oh man.
Yeah. So and that's the thing, I guess. And I guess we'll talk about it too, like in terms of the Jesus character. And because the thing is that, like Carol, the character of Carol is far different than what's in the comic, and which has been a wonderful thing. I love the Carol on the show way more than Carol in the comic, who's just, I guess she was kind of like the Andrea equivalent, just sort of like, oh, so annoying, like she was sort of like, all right, fine.
So Eugene took that up. I'm kidding.
But like the thing is that, like, for instance, like Jesus, I completely 100% understand where Tom Paine was coming from in terms of his very honest sentiments.
Yeah.
How he felt.
You mean his candor?
He was very candid, and it kind of all makes sense now if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we met him
right when he probably found out.
Probably when he found out.
Right.
And he was so, I remember at the time we were surprised, like, wow, he was kind of candid about the fact that
he was like really sour.
Very sour. But it all makes sense, because like when I was watching, the mid-season finale, and, spoiler alert, he gets killed. Like, if you don't know that.
If you haven't caught up, I'm sorry.
If you haven't caught up, sorry.
You're on a recap show, sort of.
You're on a recap show. Jesus gets killed. And like, I was just like, I was shocked, but then I was like, you know what? It kind of now all makes sense now why he was sort of like, meh, like he was sort of over it at that point,
It's like he couldn't help himself too. It was like, he just couldn't help him be bummed.
Yeah. Like, what do you have to lose at that point? You already know you're getting killed off. So like, I would be the same way. It's like
legal action.
If you're telling me I'm getting laid off in 2 weeks, what the hell do I care? Like,
well, you don't have an NDA.
I mean,
you do have it in some sort of way, but
yeah. I mean, but he was right to be able to express his disappointment and saying like, look, because he is right. In the comic, Jesus does all these amazing stunts, and I kept waiting for that. I kept waiting for that moment to happen. And I don't think his character or potential fan stardom took off the way it could have, because like everyone was sort of waiting for that moment where he's going to like do this stuff and catch grenades and throw it back at the saviors and just sort of like be this like, amazing martial competitor. And we only got a slight sliver of that, and then it was just kind of like, he just got put on the back burner and it just didn't happen. But again, the thing is, in the comic, he's like Rick's right-hand man. Who's Rick's right-hand man on the show? It's Daryl. As long as Daryl's around, you're going to have to change things, because you're not going to be able to have Jesus shine the way he shines in the comic. You're not going to be able to have Dwight shine the way he shines in the comic. You can't do it.
Right. All because of Daryl, you're saying. Daryl is the cause of all this and
I'm not saying it's his fault, but I'm just saying like, there's not enough to go around. Like you can't necessarily like have Daryl do all these cool stunts and then I don't know. I guess you could say that you could have Jesus do that stuff, but they just never really developed it in that direction. They never did.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just didn't see when they casted him as Jesus, they just never developed him in that way. So he didn't kind of come off as this like martial fighter or whatever, You're saying as a, like, visually looking at Tom Paine? Visually, he didn't have the same look as in the comic, because in the comic, this Jesus guy can go head to head with Negan, like literally like head to head, eye to eye, mano a mano. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not doesn't, like, if you look at Jeffrey Dean Morgan and you look at like Tom Paine, like it's not the same as the way it is in the comic. Now that doesn't mean that it can't work, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan doesn't have the stature that Negan has in the comic, where he's like this big buffed out guy. That's like, Jeffrey Dean Morgan doesn't have that kind of build or that kind of frame or whatever, but it still works because they developed him in that way to have this like charismatic, persona, whatever. So it works, he's made it work in his own way, and has made Negan still have this sort of like personality, but in his own way. He's made that role. I don't think that they ever gave Tom Paine a chance to really kind of like make that role his and develop it in a way that still like pays homage to the character and gets to do these cool stunts and things like that, because he wanted to do that. Like, he wanted to.
He trained for it too.
He trained for it, and he never got a chance to like really exhibit any of those skills. Like, I would be disappointed too. I would be very disappointed also.
You don't think it really do is that, because just so everybody knows, we will be flashing back to somewhere between the 6-year time jump, 5-year time jump, 5-year, 6-year. Yeah. And we will be getting a couple of things. One of which is specifically, well, here's what I was hoping, and then we'll move on to the other things that we wanted to talk about in terms of that time jump. Is that what they could do is they can have Negan somehow, maybe they tried letting him outside, and they tried rec time, and then Jesus swoops in and they actually end up having that fight.
It'd be cool if they did that, but I feel like he wouldn't have been so surly if that happens.
Unless he's an actor.
I don't know. He was very like candid with us. He was very candid in interviews with other publications. So I don't think it happened.
No, I don't think so either. We in testing, it didn't work out. It proved to be bullshit. So. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. It's just, it's a shame. And it's a shame. You can't really, and it's hard to really say that, how, if you really think about it, how would they have been able to do that, considering one specific thing, like, because you basically have to sacrifice the thing that they tried to do with Simon raiding the hilltop. Now, is the fight with Jesus so important that you get rid of that, or was the Simon thing badass enough to kind of say, okay, we have to drop this in order to do this? And I have to say, like, I kind of like the idea of Simon wigging out.
No, but there's a way that it could have been done, because like when we had the whole point, we had the episode where the garbage people turned on Alexandria, where they find out that like, oh, they thought that they made a deal with them, but actually they made a deal with Negan, and that whole thing or whatever.
Right.
And kind of like they have a brief firefight or whatever, but then they're kind of like squashed, and basically it's kind of like a lineup again. And Negan like threatens that he's gonna like kill Carl or whatever. Like
at Alexandria, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at Alexandria, where they're like kind of like on their knees again.
Yeah, you're right.
In the comic, that's the point where Jesus comes out. Like the cavalry arrives in the way it does in the comic with Ezekiel and Shiva and all of that. But Jesus does too. And like the saviors have their weapons. And when they try to like, throw grenades and stuff like that, Jesus is like catching them and throwing it back at the saviors. Like, I mean, it's super cool. But that happens at that point, and they did it, but they didn't use Jesus in that way. That they could have done it, and it wouldn't have necessarily compromised any of the rest of the storyline, because that does happen. And they did do it with the cavalry, like showing up and, pushing the saviors out. So they could have done it. I don't know why they didn't do it.
Right. The opportunity was there. I mean, could it be that maybe in the TV show, Jesus just seemed too formidable? Like that he could have really done some damage to Jeffrey Dean Morgan? I mean, not as a human being.
No. I know what you're saying. Like, I don't know.
I just heard the way that sounded. It's like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, poor him.
No, I know what you're saying. Like if it would have been
just in light of the fact that Negan doesn't look the way he does in the comics.
But Jesus doesn't look the way he looks in the comic either, though.
Oh, that's true, I guess.
He doesn't. Neither one of them does, Like, I think they could have done it. They could have, they had opportunities to. They chose not to. Why they chose not to is beyond me. I don't know. I don't know why they chose not to, but I think it was a missed opportunity. And I think clearly the actor is disappointed. Can't say I blame them, but here we are.
Me neither. And we're all bummed.
Everybody was bummed. Everybody was bummed out about it just because of what could have been.
Yeah.
Well, like there was a lot of opportunity that wasn't explored. But, it is what it is. So
As they say in New York, it is what it is. You know how many people hate that saying?
it is what it is, really? That's
Yeah,
not a New York thing.
it's definitely a New York thing. It is
No.
what it is.
No, if I said like no, for me, like a New York thing is that if when I'm down here and I say like not for nothing, but blah 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 blah, like I am very well aware that not for nothing is a very much a tri-state area thing.
Yeah,
But like, because I don't hear anybody else outside of the tri-state area ever say that.
yeah. Not for
But
nothing is it, but it. I don't see that
it
being.
is a tri-state area thing.
I don't see that being uttered by anybody younger than 45, even though we're younger than 45.
I have to say that.
We'll get there. Yeah. Slowly we inch to middle age.
Sad as hell.
Stop it, David.
Sad as hell.
It's not sad. We live good lives.
It's okay. It's okay.
We're on a podcast. Wait, everybody's on a podcast?
Listen, I accept it. It's fine. Fine.
Everybody over 40 has their own podcast. Not for nothing.
Not for nothing. Exactly. Not for nothing, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah. I think it's a rite of passage. Doesn't each state have to mandate that everybody have a podcast in order to vote in elections?
Oh, we're not going to talk about politics on this.
No.
We can't even talk about that. It's
No.
a whole other.
What are politics in the apocalypse?
Well, we've seen it with like the Hilltop and Alexandria and their tribunals.
That's true, and we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Tribunals, how Maggie manipulates Alexandria to do what she wants, we've seen that. We've broken that down.
What would be really cool? I really would love. I mean, I want the season finale to be like heads on a pike for sure. So it's like
it's gonna be.
That's so horrible. Every time I say that, I feel so bad that I'm like, I need to see heads on a pike. I need to see 10 heads like on a pike.
On a row.
10 heads. I want to see Rosita, Eugene. No, not Eugene. Eugene's not.
Whoa.
Eugene's gonna be fine. Eugene's not going anywhere.
Right. He's gonna come into his own.
He's got to get the ham radio up and going.
That's true.
But I want to see the heads on the pike, and I want to see the ham radio up and running, and I want to hear them make contact, and I want to hear Rick or Maggie on the other end of that ham radio. If it's like, Rick,
what's the zombie equivalent of a bridezilla? That's what you are right now. That's what you're doing right now.
No, it's like this would be perfect because. It would be perfect. It would be perfect. It would be great. If it's Rick's voice on the other line and we have the heads on a pike, I'm like, beautiful. It's perfect. It's exactly how this needs to end for the season.
Well, we've got to break the tension, though. There's one thing that we need to like really just say is probably going to happen, and that's we have to grapple with the idea that Ezekiel.
Oh yeah, he's dead.
Definitely going to be on that.
Definitely going to die. Sorry, and Jerry too.
No.
Yeah, Jerry's going to die too. Because the thing is that, like,
I mean, I'd be okay, but that.
No, I won't be okay. I'm going to be really upset about this, and I've already kind of mentally prepared myself and emotionally have prepared myself for this because I've accepted the fact that it's going to happen. Because the thing is, it's like they have to make the deaths mean something, and it's got to hurt. It has to be painful.
Meaning, like, it has to have an impact.
It has to have an impact. Like, you can have your like filler people in there that are like, because in the comic is the same thing. Like, there are certain people that are there that get killed, and it's like, okay, the death doesn't resonate as much because you're like, oh well, that sucks or whatever. But then when you're like, no, he got killed too, no, so you have to have those people too. So you got to have Ezekiel for sure, Jerry, who else? Rosita, Tara.
Tara, huh?
Yeah, Tara's not doing anything.
Right. I've been hearing a lot of like Tara hate,
I don't hate Tara. Like,
no, not you. I'm just saying in general.
What kind of hate?
People are just sick of her character. It's really upsetting.
Tara's the kind of character that's like, I'll give you an example. I watched Project Runway. I don't know if are you familiar with
I have
Project
actually,
Runway?
yeah.
Love Project Runway.
I haven't in years. I'll give that much. It's off the air though, right? It's not. Is it still running?
It's still on.
Oh, okay.
It's running like season, God only knows what, like 25 or whatever. But like, anyway, no, it's not 25.
It's 15 maybe.
Probably 16.
If I had to do the math.
But like, I remember early on, it might have been like the first or second season, because I've been watching it since like day one. I remember like Tara is the kind of character, like this contestant that they had on Project Runway, where they were down to like 4 people. And one day they were in the kitchen getting something to eat. And one of the guys like had his little confessional, and he was like, yeah, I kind of turned around and saw, I don't know, John or whatever. And I thought to myself, man, you're still here? Like, and that's the thing. It's like Tara's that kind of person that you look at and you're like, how are you still here?
How are you still alive?
How are you still alive? It's like all these other like martial fighters have come and gone. Tara's still around.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of like, you can only dodge the bullet for so long. So I feel that like Tara's time may be coming to an end. Like if you have to pick 10 people, like Tara's definitely going to be in that 10, in my opinion. And then you can fill it in also with Diana. She's dead too.
Oh, yeah. You mean Diane?
Diane, I'm sorry. She's dead too.
Wow. Yeah.
Brett Butler's character, she's gone.
Oh, Tammy Rose.
Yes, Tammy
gone.
Rose
Sutton.
Of the teenagers, filler bodies. At least a couple of them. Like the guys that are all like, oh, let's like,
what about Addie?
Zombies or whatever. I'm like, no. The doofus guys that are like being like all reckless, I'm like, whenever you have any reckless characters, I'm like, you guys are dead.
Yeah.
So it's like, you guys are done too.
Well, which brings to mind, like, because they were obviously messing with that walker, so maybe they'll try to do the same thing with the other one, and it's not a walker.
And it's not a walker. Yeah, no, they're dead.
But here's the thing: I'm really liking Addie's character. I
think Addie will survive. I think that she'll survive. I think Addie could potentially be the equivalent of Sophia in the comic.
Does Sophia survive in the comic?
Yes. Sophia does survive in the comic.
Oh my God! But that just shows how my ignorance, by the way, which is kind of great. I mean, I had not known until now.
No, but you're coming at it from a different perspective, which is what makes this so magical. But Addie reminds me a lot of Sophia in the look. The look that she has looks very similar to Sophia in the comic. And she kind of has a crush on Carl, even though Carl doesn't necessarily see her in that way. But she kind of has like this. And I can see her having a crush on, what's the name? The one who, the teenager.
Enid?
No, the teenager from the Kingdom, the boy, what's his name? Who did the apprenticeship?
Oh, Henry.
Henry, yes. Duh. I'm like, what?
I thought we were talking. Okay, gotcha.
I can see Addie having a bit of like the crush on Henry, the way Sophia's character has a crush on Carl.
Right.
Even though Carl sees her more as like almost like a sister sort of like figure that he wants to take care of. Like he doesn't see her in that way necessarily.
Well, there seems to be already some sexual tension between the two characters, though.
I think that Addie seems to have an interest in him, but I think that he doesn't necessarily see her in that way, which that's why I say it reminds me of the Carl-Sophia dynamic, where it's a little one-sided. Not that he doesn't care for her at all, but it's not exactly the same. So I think she'll survive. I don't think that she'll get killed off, but I think the two doofus guys, they're done.
Yeah.
So if you add it, I mean, that could maybe be 10. It's like the two teenagers, Tammy, Diane, Tara, Rosita, Jerry,
Ezekiel. That's 8 at least.
Yeah, that's at least 8. And then you can fill in the other 2.
And as I say, 8 is enough.
8 is enough.
That's also a 40+ joke.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm trying to think of who else, though. If there was anybody else, if there were a couple of other people that I would throw in there.
Now it's just wishful thinking on your part.
No, it's not wishful thinking.
Like, what other people annoy me?
You know who you could throw in? You could throw in, but it's like, damn, you're gonna kill everybody. What's her name? Jerry's love interest. Ugh.
Oh, Nabila.
Nabila, you could kill her too. 9.
Just why not?
I'm just like, all right, I'm just throw her in there.
Just more incinerate. It's just like,
throw her in. Like anybody else.
What do they do with the bodies? Burn them.
Yeah,
bigger bonfire.
That's what the bodies. Oh, duh. Maybe not Nabila, but there is a clip in the trailer, and this is the reason why I think that these might be the other 2 characters. In the trailer, we see one of your favorite new characters,
Marco,
the guy from Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, Dan Fogler. That's right.
They show him in the woods with
Who was it?
with
Was it
the
with Marco?
guy.
No.
What? No, he plays Luke,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yes, that's right.
So the Luke character and the character that's with Enid,
Oh,
I forget his character's name.
Alden.
Alden and Luke in the woods surrounded by whispers. I'm like, there's your final two.
Do you think Alden's on the chopping block?
I think Alden's on the
Yeah,
chopping
you know what really
block.
sucks about his character is that we wanted so much more from him in terms of Maggie, but then lo and behold, Enid. Did you see that coming though? Because I did not. That was like a shock.
I was like, all right, okay. But you know what though? It makes sense. I had a harder time believing Alden and Maggie together. I was like, that's a hard sell.
Was it because of the events that transpired, or
visually it just didn't make any sense to me? I don't know. Maybe, but it could be because from a comic standpoint, Maggie's love interest is sort of like a soldier kind of kingdom type character, and he has a personality that's very much like a Negan personality in that he's very wisecracky, he's very sort of sarcastic, like he's just. So Alden very much is not that character.
He could have been though. You know what I mean? He did kind of have like that Boston-y kind of.
Yeah, but this guy can be like a. Okay, if you want to talk Boston-y or whatever, Maggie's character would have been with a Marky Mark Boston-y type guy. That's what this guy in the comic is
not like. A guy who sings at wakes.
No. So that's why I had a hard time buying Alden and Maggie. So when they switched it up and it was like, oh, him and Enid, I was like, that makes more sense. But yeah, he's dead too. If I think about it now, I'm like, no, he's gone too. So that makes sense.
By the way, he's dead too.
That's it too. So I'm calling it right now. So I'm gonna say the two teen guys, they're gone. Then we've got Tammy. Who else do we say? Diane, Rosita, Tara, Jerry, Ezekiel, and Alden and Luke. 10.
You got it. Now you have to write that down.
I am going to write it down tonight before I go to sleep, and I'm going to keep tabs of it. And when it comes to the season finale, I'm going to see how many out of 10 I got right. And if I get 10 out of 10 right, oh my God, I should get a prize.
You should get a prize. Well, I'll get you a prize.
I should get a prize.
This is of your choosing.
Be like, see that?
It'll be a giveaway. This will be like the lottery numbers.
That should,
and depending on what you get, how many you get is
how many you get. Yeah, exactly. There's different tiers depending on how many you get.
I think what we should do is
yes.
We should have the fans weigh in on what each tier is going to be. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then they decide what prize is the 0 prize all the way up to the. Well, you won't get a prize for 0.
You won't
get a prize for 10.
Sorry. We'll determine what tier qualifies for a prize.
Right, exactly. Or what prize, or maybe it's you do it in sections of 4. So so if you get 4 or 5 right or something, sorry.
I think you should be over 50%. You got to get at least half.
You got to get at least half, and then there's a second prize, and then there's a first prize for getting all 10.
Right, exactly. Maybe 50%, 70%.
Yeah.
And then 100%.
You get to pick the top prize, but the fans get to pick the bottom and the middle prize.
Interesting.
I think that's a great idea.
Something to think about. But for sure, there should be a poll or contest. For sure.
Yes, definitely. For you, I think this is good. We're incentivizing the show, and we're getting everybody involved.
I will mic drop if I get 10 out of 10. If I get 10 out of 10, I'm like, I should be the next super fan. I'm like, I guessed all your character deaths. I pretty much sensed it, and I figured it out. What more do you want?
Swami. Yeah.
I could write it for you.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I can't talk about anything about fear.
Every time I see all these characters who are dead, I get angry.
I mentally tune out. I started thinking about something else in my mind.
Oh, please share with the rest of the class.
Nothing. I mean, it could be supermarket shopping, anything. I just can't. I'm so.
Do you have to flee to a happy place? Or a neutral place?
My mind just goes anywhere else other than fear. It's
the only thing I really wanted to bring up essentially was the Dwight thing. Mostly. The Andy thing, which we brought up already. There is the Daniel Salazar, Ruben Blades and Daniel Sharman, the two actors who played Troy Otto and Daniel Salazar. The fact that they're coming back, to me, the only thing that makes sense to me is the idea that they may team up together and be like a force to be reckoned with, because they do need to inject some of the familiarity that we lost in season 4. Did I lose you?
What's that?
Are you going to your happy place?
I did.
No, you have to talk about this because I think you don't like this.
I cannot. There are some people who are like Negan haters, and I'm the biggest Negan apologist.
Right.
It's like, look, I'll I dig my heels in the dirt when it comes to Negan. I'm like, don't you dare criticize Negan. Like, he has valid reasons for what he does. But I mean,
but the showrunners have no valid reason for what they're doing.
I just they still have.
Now I can actually see you squirm. It's just it's so great.
Like, fear is just, oh God.
No, but talk about it, because I think people are on the same page. I mean, even I'm on the same page to a certain extent too, because I'm incredulous is the word.
My feeling with fear is that I just don't know where it's going. I just don't. And the thing is that with Walking Dead, I know where it's going for the most part. Not exactly, but there's a roadmap at least that you can kind of follow and sort of say, okay, this is the trajectory. It may not hit all the stops that the comic does, but this is the trajectory that we're going to, and I'm excited and looking forward to getting to that destination, because I know that it's going to be a good ride, but with fear, I just sort of like get like confused, because I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here? I'm like, are we in the following the tone of season 3? But then obviously not. It's like we hit the reset button, but then even when we hit the reset button,
sort of, yeah,
we thought we were going in a certain direction, and then that didn't happen. And then, I mean, to me, this was my thing. It's like,
so are we backsliding, Simon?
I don't know.
Because they're bringing these previous season characters in, so it's kind of like, are we backsliding, Carol?
I just don't know. I don't know, and that's the thing, because it's not very clear to me, like, where this story was going. What's the direction? You're staying in Texas. Are you going back to Alexandria? No, we're not going to Alexandria. We're going to stay here and just kind of be like a, reading Rainbow Factory, helping people. Like, I just like, what are we doing here?
Or the A-Team, which some people have pointed out already, which is kind of cool. I mean, cool for the nostalgia factor, but like,
it's just, and it's also just, they had moments of, like, there were certain episodes that were good in season 4. There were certain ones that were fine, but it was minimal. And then you had parts that were just written in a way that were just so cheesy to me. And I was like, you would never do this on Walking Dead. Like, you would try to have like a monologue like this in Walking Dead, and the person would, like Denise tried to have her moment of monologue, and she gets shot in the eye. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to monologue. Like, that's like, come on, like, we can't have this cheesiness. Like, this is the apocalypse. Like, we're not going to have like these, like.
For me, it's just the direction, though. You know what I mean? You're right. Like, the thing that's really unsettling is that there is no roadmap. And so we have to kind of not trust that they know what they're doing, but like, well, I mean, essentially we do have to do that, or not. You can opt out. But now that Dwight's coming on the show, it's kind of like, oh, they're making me watch this shit again.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Like, I'm bitter about the fact that that's exactly what's my sentiment. I even like texted a couple of coworkers that are big fans, and I was just like, what do we feel? What do we think about this? It's like, is this going to make me watch this?
Well, are any one of them kind of like still kind of into fear, by the way? Curious. This is a good gauge,
The last few episodes left a really bad taste in their mouth because of the whole introduction of the filthy woman, whatever the hell her name was.
Right.
I forget.
Martha.
Martha. Like, it was just.
What kind of stupid name is that?
It was just one of those things where it just felt like you arbitrarily threw in a villain that you killed off, and that, like, but there was like, what was the point in all of this? Like, again, where are we going? What's the direction in this? What's this all about? What's this leading to? What's this point? Because I got excited when they were talking about, like, oh, we're going to head to Alexandria. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're bringing this home. Okay,
like, we're going there. Yeah.
Like, that was the thing. I was like, are we going there? Are we doing something? Like, what's happening here?
Right.
So then I was like, okay.
I thought that was a little unnecessary too.
What, going to Alexandria?
Well, I mean, no, it's you kind of have to do that because it acknowledges the fact that the other universe exists, right? And it teases you and it plays with you. I could see why they would do that at the end of the day, because if there is going to be a Dwight crossover, then I guess it makes sense at the end of the day. So just
That's
having a reference to it.
Pretty easy to get from Virginia to Texas, huh?
Especially if you're running.
I mean, you can Forrest Gump it clearly. Like, jeez, like Morgan like hopped
Run,
cars,
Morgan, run.
ran, like, and got all the way to Texas.
Yeah.
Is Dwight just doing the same thing?
I can vouch for the fact that it does take a really long time to drive there.
It takes a really long time, I would think.
I want to say 36 hours.
Oh, Morgan did it in record time, apparently. Record time. And I guess
there's not a lot of traffic, I guess.
No, not in the apocalypse, no.
No.
But I just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the master plan is. Like, I always hope, I guess that's my disappointment too. It's like, my hope is that this is part of a master plan, and it never fully is. Because like, my hope against hope had been like, if you were going to kill Madison off, first of all, I was given the side eye for the longest time on like, Madison's dead. If I don't see a body in general in this universe, I'm always like, I don't know about that. That's why, like, in my mind, Sherry's still alive. Heath is still alive. Everybody that we don't see a body from, they're still alive. Even Daryl said that when he had the conversation with Carol in that episode, like, he's been looking for a body.
Yeah.
If you don't find a body, they're still alive. They're still alive. There.
Right.
And that's basically like, that's the consensus. So for Madison, I was sort of like, are you really going to tell me that's how she's going to go out? Like, that's how it's going to happen or whatever. And in my mind, what I had been hoping for is that what we end up seeing is Madison's transformation into Alpha.
Oh yeah. Well, that's kind of like a cherry on top.
Perfect. And it would have made sense because she led these oiled, soaked walkers away from her family. And the whole thing that the Whisperers do is that they manipulate these hordes, to work to their advantage, to work as their shields, to work as like their cloaking device, their camouflage. It's like,
and their fodder too.
How amazing would it have been to see Madison transform into Alpha? And it would have been totally believable. Totally believable. It would have made total sense.
It wouldn't be that much work to kind of weave that kind of story together.
It would have.
It's work, but it
would have given a rich backstory to how these people got there.
And familiarity too.
Right.
Instead of like some rando.
Right. To make it a conflict in a way where you're just like, damn,
where you're invested in the possible redemption story.
You're hopeful and because I will say,
or the not, and then Martha would make more sense, by the way, because the idea of you can't help some people. Well, I'm just trying to figure out a way out, and then because then Martha makes sense, because then that's the somebody that you can't help, and so that kind of transfers over to Madison.
I just think that if they would have done the development of Madison into Alpha, then it would have even tied together with, they do toy around in the comic that Alpha does have remorse for how she's living her life and what she puts her daughter through,
right?
Lydia or whatever,
right?
And she is eventually killed, but right before she's killed, you think that maybe she's like, kind of like, yeah, maybe this isn't the right thing to do, whatever. But she's killed, but she has that moment, and you kind of think like, oh, is she, is she redeemable?
Like she second guesses herself for a second,
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, if they had done that work, then I would have been in. And there's still that little part of me right now that is hopeful that they haven't shown me Alpha's face, because Alpha's Madison.
That's interesting that you think that way too, because
there's still that little part of me that's sort of like, I hope that this is all a ruse and it's Madison.
That's really interesting.
But it can't be. I know it can't be.
I mean, we didn't see a body.
Well,
we didn't see Samantha Morton in any of the promos, but we definitely do know that that's Ryan Hurst.
We definitely know it's Ryan Hurst.
It's unavoidable. That beard is instantly recognizable.
Yeah, it's definitely him.
But Kim Dickens has them blue eyes, I think, right?
She does. So, I mean, it could, but then the thing is that
biggest head fake ever.
I would still say like that I would still be holding out hope for that if it weren't for the fact that we've seen Lydia as her daughter, and obviously like Lydia is not Alicia, so it's like
it doesn't have to be her daughter. I don't know.
Yeah, true. Well, that's true. They never
change some things around.
Yeah.
I'm just getting your hopes up.
I know.
Terrible human
Like
being.
but that's the thing. Like if that happened, I would be like, oh, it's on. Because then
Like Rambo Donkey Kong.
no, because then I would be invested in watching Fear because I'd want to see basically the backstory of how Madison became Alpha. And then you can take Fear to kind of like be the backstory of like, how did this group become the Whisperers? How did we get here? How did these people get to this point? How did they get to Alexandria? You know, like how did this whole thing happen? I'd be in. But right now, Fear just seems like a random things that happen. It's almost like the mystery wagon for Scooby-Doo, and we're just going around saving people. I'm like, look, I never liked Scooby-Doo. I'm not into this.
Like a serial. Yeah, you're not into like the serial kind of solve it in one episode kind of thing.
Saving this week. We're gonna save these people. All right, we're gonna.
Well, with the introduction of Troy Otto and Daniel Salazar, it does throw a wrench in that. To like, so let's say they try to help different groups here and there, and they find out that they're having really good success, but B, then you have an element of, and then there's the time jump, right? So we have a 6-year time jump in The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. What happens to Fear within those 6 years? Do we go over that in the first half, or how does that reconcile? And then given that fact, then you have a duo who may or may not be together or may meet up with each other or whatever it is. And then there's also, I like the idea of Kalataka Walker being perhaps a part of this, Michael Grey Eyes, which hasn't been announced. But if you get all three of these guys together, how do they, put a wrench in the works with all that? Because if we do have a 6-year time jump in Fear the Walking Dead, then you have kind of like a similar situation where maybe things have happened, maybe some good things, maybe some really, really bad things. We have a lot of flashbacks, maybe. They could be doing the same thing that in Fear that they did in The Walking Dead. So I don't know. There's a lot of, I'll give it to you. It's very unsettling because we don't have a roadmap, but the time jump does speed things up a little bit to where they can imply a lot of things and maybe given the possibilities, like balance that load of uncertainty, and we can start assuming some bedrock ideas that have happened in this last 6 years. And then we can start playing around a little bit better because, what they did in the last season was kind of like a straight continuation and after another time jump from the dam blowing up. So, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know, but I'm willing to give it a try. Obviously, you're going to too because you have to. Oh, what would really suck is if they don't show Dwight until the end.
But it will happen on I would be so bitter.
I know.
I would be like, really? You're making me watch like 13 episodes before like you get to Dwight. They'll like introduce him like in the second to last episode or something.
Episode 10 really or bitter. Whatever. Oh, God.
I'll be DVRing it, so I won't be bitter about it. I'll at least watch it on my terms.
If I have to make a single prediction, though, I would say that if they are definitely going to be revealing Dwight, let's just put it this way. They only started production, I think it was the end of November, beginning of December. Like they were in the table rounds, they were in the writer's room, they were fixing some things up, and I'm sure they started filming like midway into December. So announcing Dwight this far in means that he should be in the first half, probably. It means that they've had him on the show for a little while, and they've had it in the bag. I mean, Jenna Elfman even implies that they've known about this for a really long time, and they finally can say something.
Yeah, it seems like it.
So I'm just trying to make you feel better because I know you feel you seem verklempt.
I just like fear comes up and I have to take like a deep breath. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Woosah.
Okay. Okay. Fine. It's fine.
It's fine. I'll be okay. Just TV.
I'll watch it. It's just different. Like when Walking Dead comes on, it's like I go to my room, I shut the door, I put a lock on it, I have like my drink, and I have to watch it as it airs. Like I need to see as it's happening because I don't want to get spoiled by like somebody being like, holy crap. It's like, no. I need to watch it as it happens so I know what's going on. Plus, I like seeing the color commentary on Twitter while I'm watching it, but that's just me.
I don't.
But like
I'm like the
Fear,
exact opposite
sort of
on that.
like, you don't like that. I love the Twitter commentary. It kills
During
me.
the show? No.
Twitter color commentary is amazing. Yeah, during the show. I love it.
I guess now I've kind of gotten used to it.
It's like, and if I love it because it's so funny. But what it's always especially funny is that if I happen not to be able to catch Walking Dead when it airs, but I have my phone with me and I'm seeing the Twitter comments come in, and when I see people go like, "Oh my God," I'm like, "What the hell happened?" something happened.
Yeah.
But no, I love Twitter.
Yeah, I have been.
And if it's trending, then I know something's up.
which really? Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. But I'll say one thing. That actually is a good segue to the Skybound Walking Dead account, because they've been doing some really... I don't know if it's not necessarily new, but I think that account is starting to actually start retweeting like other non-Walking Dead accounts and stuff like that, trying to troll them and stuff like that. So, I mean, just the other day when people found out about The Walking Dead taking over the top spot of most pirated show, like when HBO announced that it would be the season of Game of Thrones, and then The Walking Dead account just goes and The Walking Dead. So I just found that fascinating, because it's and they're starting to like go into fan accounts and start responding to them and retweeting fans and stuff like that. I just think that's really, really fascinating to me. How they do
the dynamic between Game of Thrones and Walking Dead.
Well, more the Walking Dead's Twitter account has gone like immersive. Like they've been way more responsive. They've been playing with the AMC Walking Dead account too. So the AMC Walking Dead account will be like all legit business, legit media. Like here's a video promo, and then the Walking Dead, the Skybound account will be like, they'll start doing commentary on that. And it's just it's funny. It's funny to watch them interact with that, with fans, replying to comments and on both the AMC and their own chat, replies and stuff like that, tweet replies. And so if you ever get a chance to, if anybody ever gets a chance to really just respond to the Walking Dead account, and they'll be more than happy to reply back. It's pretty fun, and just goes to show like they are doing some pretty good things. Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what we are covering. I mean, it's rapidly approaching. We'll be there February 10th. We'll be here before you know it. Thank God for that.
Your lips to God's ears. Because we're only in week 3 of giveaways, by the way. We've got 7 more weeks to go.
But it's getting there. It's getting there. It'll fly. I'm hopeful it'll fly by. It'll be right after the Super Bowl Sunday, and then Walking Dead.
Boom.
Sunday.
Is that the same Sunday or no? Right?
No. They know better than that. The Super Bowl Sunday, followed by Walking Dead Sunday.
Wow.
They always do it that way.
Thank goodness.
They're not dummies.
Ain't no stupid.
They're not gonna compete with the Super Bowl. They usually advertise during the Super Bowl, actually.
That's right. I remember how good those advertisements
Because I've seen Walking Dead during the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, folks.
There you have it.
Exactly. So before we get timed out and lagged again, I will say this much. I am looking forward to the winner of this week's contest, and stay tuned to our social media accounts so you find out when the next prize drops. It's usually the next prize drops for, let's say, week 4. It'll drop during the normal time when The Walking Dead airs, at least on the East Coast, which is 9 Eastern. So on Sunday 9 Eastern, like New York time. So keep your eyes peeled. It does shoot out at 9 p.m. exactly. There is a mailing list if you do want to get the next drop via email, not want to look at social medias. But for now, we've got less than 24 hours left for this week's giveaway, and I encourage you to go to SquawkingDead.com, and it should be right there on the page. It loads up, and you can just enter right away by putting your email address and your first and last name, and you're good to go. And then you can start entering multiple times, like click the Facebook and the Twitters and the Instagrams, and yeah, it's pretty easy. And that's each one of those is another entry and stuff like that. And some have multiple entries, so you can basically hit one thing and get 2 entries and stuff like that too. So enter today, and we'll be doing this for the next 7 weeks after to Sunday. Or not 7 weeks, I'm sorry. It's 8 weeks only, right? So it's 5 more weeks to go. Okay. I'm losing my goddamn mind. Yes. Yeah. So with that,
shabby, only 5 weeks.
Yeah. We got it. We got this.
Just saying.
Yeah. So with that, Carol, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I missed you.
See that? We are back, getting revamped, ready. It'll be good. It'll be good.
And this is a new thing, this little live feed with us and the cameras and stuff like that. We're going to do better next time, but with the internet connection. And
it's all experimental. Give us feedback, actually. Give us feedback. Give us ratings. Let us know what we're doing, because how can we improve if we don't know? Yeah,
design ideas are welcome.
I'm just saying. Suggestions, recommendations, requests.
Yeah, hit us up at info@SquawkingDead.com, our social medias, DMs, all that stuff. There's even a little chat bubble on the bottom right where you can DM or Twitter DM and Facebook Instant Messenger or Facebook Messenger us. So with that, Carol.
See you next time.
Perfect, because of the lag. Take care, guys. We'll see you next week or two.